Hi, second grade readers. My name is Miss Garner, and I am so excited that I get to join you and your teacher as you continue to grow as readers in your next reading unit. Bigger books means amping up reading power. So let's get started. Now, I'm sure all of you know that there are many different types of scientists. Some scientists study bees, some study tigers, others study hurricanes. But did you know that some scientists study readers, specifically second grade readers? These scientists go into classrooms just like your own across the country to pay attention and notice what second grade readers look like, sound like, and are doing. And you know what they have determined about second grade readers? They've determined that second grade is one of the most important grades for reading growth because there's a couple things that second grade readers are starting to do. They're starting to learn to read silently in their heads, and they're starting to develop a reading voice, which they can use when they read out loud, but they can also use when they're reading silently in their head. And something that second grade readers are recognizing or learning about their reading voice is that the voice sounds differently depending on what they're reading. So their reading voice can sound different when they read stories. It can sound differently when they're reading informational books or a poem. Sometimes their reading voices will sound joyful, or sometimes their reading voices will sound surprised. And other times their reading voice will sound really angry. But one thing is for sure is that their reading voices no longer sound like the voices of beginning readers who are trying to read to get all of the words right. Instead, their voices are smooth and fluent. And reading with fluency is one of the most important things second grade readers could do because reading fluently helps you understand what you're reading. So today I am so excited because I get to teach you that one way to make your reading more fluent is to reread, especially reading out loud. And this is one of the best ways to change or grow that voice inside all of your reading heads. So, did you know that second graders are not the only students who practice rereading out loud to grow or lift the level of their internal reading voices? High school students do it too, because they have learned that one of the best ways that they are able to read just one thing really well is to reread. And by doing that, they can change the reading voices in their head. So, what I want you to keep in mind as we're doing our work together is that we're going to be working on rereading aloud and in our heads. And we're going to practice this really important work using a familiar story to all of you. So hopefully you remember reading Owl Moon a few units ago when you were working on your writing. Today, we're going to just look at the first page. And before we get started, I thought I could provide a little kind of fun little strategy that we're going to try out today as we're reading. Have you ever been to the beach or seen a picture or in a movie, those big giant shells? These shells are called conch shells, and if you speak into them, they act as echo chambers in the sense that you can hear your voice. It sounds like it bounces back at you. Well, we can all pretend to have conch shells at home by putting our hands together in kind of like a form of a cup and putting them in front of our mouth. and speaking into our hands. And when we do this, our voices will bounce back at us so that we can hear our reading voices so that we can practice growing them. So why don't we go ahead real quick and practice reading with our pretend conch shells. So just say whatever you want to say. Maybe you might want to say, "Hi, Miss Garner." Did you notice how your voice came back and you were able to hear what your reading voice sounded like? Well, I'm going to encourage you at different points in our lesson to try the reading out with your pretend conch shell. Okay, so what I would like for you to do is watch and listen to me read this first page out loud with my pretend conch shell. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind, the trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us, a train whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. Now, we're going to reread the same page, but this time you're going to join me. So you're going to read out loud along with me. Now, if you would like, use your pretend conch shell to help you hear your reading voices. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind. The trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us, a train whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. Wow, guys, that sounded great. I bet though, if we practice a few more times, your reading voices will become even smoother or more fluent. And that makes me think, I actually have a tip that I want to share with all of you that might help you grow your reading voice. So it's really helpful when you're reading to not only focus on the words, but to make pictures in your head of the words that you're reading. Doing so will help you determine what your reading voice should sound like. So we're going to reread this page for a third time. And as you read it, I want you to picture in your head what's going on this page. Okay? Pretend conch shells up. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind. The trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us, a train whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. I bet some of you were picturing in your head tall, still trees without any leaves on them. I bet others of you were imagining in your head a giant full moon that was so bright your eyes had to squint as you looked up on it. Now, we're going to try to reread this page one more time. But if you remember, one thing that second graders do is they learn to read in their head. So this time, as you reread the page, you're going to reread it in your head. And I want you to try to get your in your head reading voice to sound like your reading voice that you just practiced when you were reading out loud. Okay, ready? Reread this passage in your head silently. Wow, good job. Now, in just a moment, you're going to go off and you're going to read a book of your choosing independently. And I want to remind you that one thing you may choose to do today is practice rereading a page or two aloud. You may choose to practice using your pretend conch shell to hear your reading voice. You may also choose to practice rereading in your head. You may even choose to take a sticky note or to turn over the corner of a page that you think is a really great page for practicing rereading aloud or in your head that you want to share with your teacher. So off you go, readers. Have fun. Bye.